finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
All right, we have a mind-blowing interview today. We don't need. That's all we need to say.
Well, I don't know. I think we should do a little intro. We have our friend Rick Dancer, who's here. So if you know him or a fan of his, you're going to be super excited. He is actually taking us on a little walk through his health journey. That's all we'll say. But wow, we get into so much more than the actual medical, physical stuff, and we go from there. So you're going to love this great interview with Rick. But before we dive in, Tim's going to give us a word from our sponsor this week.
Locum Story. It's story time, brought to you by locumstory.com. Today we'll be reading One Job, Two Job, One Job, Two Jobs, Red Blob, No Job. Elective doc, emergency doc. Some in overstock, some in and out of stock. This doc is too abused. This doc is underused. This doc can't get sick. Say, let's try a brand new trick. For all the docs about to cry, here's an idea you can try. Look into locum tenens assignment. A really great option, you might find it. Don't forget locums pays much better, and you can find assignments in any type of weather. With all of this new info trapped up in your thinker, go to financialresidency.com/locum story and use your mouse to tinker. It's here you'll find the unbiased answers you are after, so you can decide if locum tenens is your next chapter.
Wow, you did an awesome job reading that. I think everybody's going to be having that memorized pretty soon because Locum Story is a regular sponsor of ours this month. So I'll be proud of you for reading that really well. Good job. Hey, and I've got a little shout-out announcement first before we dive into our episode. Tim and I are super excited to be part of the Marriage and Money MD conference coming up November 15th through the 17th, and it is a free live event. If you and your spouse are in the medical business, especially if you're physicians, but even if you're not, you'll find a ton of useful and wonderful information from the speakers there, everything from communication issues to financial plans to conflict resolution. We talk a little bit on, it's a bonus topic, what not to do financially and as winners and losers in our financial and marriage. I will link again in the show notes to the live Facebook group and where you can sign up online in our link. You can also get a VIP pass for $99 where you'll get exclusive 8 hours of bonus interviews with the speakers, lifetime recordings through MP3 course, as well as you can take part in the Q&A sessions with the speakers afterwards. So Marriage and Money MD Conference, November 15th through the 17th.
Yep. No, important to stay married, important to get rich. And if I would have started this conference, it would be called More Sex, More Money! Because isn't that what everybody wants?
Maybe you need to start your own conference.
That's right. The More Sex, More Money Conference.
Here we go with Rick.
Well, we are thrilled today to have Rick Dancer with us. Anyone in the in Oregon, especially in the Eugene Springfield area, probably knows who Rick is. And if you don't, you're not paying attention. We're going to move on to kind of more the personal side of what happens with what used to be the big C word and really is the big C word, which is the personal story of cancer. So, Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll dive right in.
Okay. So I'm a native Oregonian. I grew up in a place called Hillsboro up near Portland. And my first job in the media, I went to school to be a TV news journalist. When Mount St. Helens blew in 1980, I signed my life away to the news director at KGW so I could get in a helicopter and fly into the crater and see this thing. And once I did, I knew I was hooked. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. So I became a reporter. I started in Coquille, Oregon, which is this little, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from there.
I know someone from there.
It's a
Small
beautiful
world.
little town.
Yes.
It's like, I'm a 25-year-old guy. I'm newly married, and I'm taking my wife to Coquille, Oregon, and And so I did radio for 6 months, then got into television, and I was a news anchor for close to 30 years. And then I quit in 2008, ran for Secretary of State, and lost, but it was a great experience. Nearly won, almost beat our current governor at the time. So some people say, Rick, you'd be governor if you had won. And that's probably the best thing I can think of is going, I'm so glad I'm not.
I know.
And so anyway, during that time, like sometime in, I'm guessing it was about 5 years prior to me finding out I had cancer, that somehow my father had thought that he had prostate cancer. Now, I don't know how you think you have prostate cancer, but he said, I have prostate cancer. So I told my doctor when I went to a physical, I had prostate cancer in my history. So he started checking it. And so for 5 years, he checked it. And 1 year it went up over 4. And he said, Rick, I think you have cancer. And I lost it. Like crying hysterically, not in front of him, but in my car, sitting in my car outside in his office and just banging on the steering wheel. Because to me, I had a grandma who died of pancreatic cancer, and my dad used to say, the worst thing that you can do is get cancer. And it was just, not meaning to preach that, but that's just what he said. So that's all I heard. Spent the next go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so you said, so did your dad actually have prostate cancer, or did he
No.
just think he did?
He thought he had maybe an enlarged prostate or something. We
Oh.
went through, after he died, he got leukemia and had it for like 10 years, and then he died in
Okay.
2008.
So he just told you that he had prostate cancer, which prompted you to tell your doctor, who started screening you.
Yeah. And so they started screening me, and that's when they found that. So I went in and started doing biopsies once a year, and they could never find it. My numbers kept climbing. I mean, by the time they found it, I was up to 20, which, you're supposed to be under 4, and anything over that starts getting nerve wracking, but they couldn't find it. I mean, anywhere they did, I felt like my doctor and I had a relationship,
Well, yeah, especially
he was going in there once every 5 years, and I'm going, this is a really weird thing. And they could never find anything until, 2010. I went home, had my test, and always just, back in those days, it took a long time. So I remember one time my test got stuck in a snowstorm because they had to send it to Nebraska. And I was just, my wife and I were just, you're just dying waiting for this answer. And it was like 2 weeks. So the time when they found it, it was like, I think it was a couple days. And every time I'd ever called and said, talk to the nurse, she'd say, no, you're fine. It came back negative. And this time the nurse said, Rick, the doctor's going to have to call you back. And I sat at the kitchen table, and my wife sat over at the other kitchen table, and we didn't speak. We said nothing to each other. We just waited, and how they say Jesus sweat blood before he got crucified. That's what it felt like, waiting. And then the doctor called, and he said, Rick, you have cancer. And your whole world just turns upside down. It's a flip-flop because it's the club nobody wants to be in. And all you do is go online and read stuff about you're never going to have a boner again. You're going to do this. You're going to pee your pants. All these things that are going to happen. And so the worst thing, advice, gentlemen, don't look online. You only hear the worst. And I kind of shut down for a few days. I couldn't manage things because it was over the top. So my wife started getting onto researching and looking on and finding what was available, what it was, what it did. I remember my doctors at the time gave me a book, all outdated, really geared towards, all the trauma and tragedy of what's going to happen. And I read a little bit of it, and then I just put it away and thought, this is not helpful. I was kind of disappointed with how the doctors handled it because I think they're so used to it And for you as a guy, this is the first time, and my doctor says, what are you, Rick, you should have surgery. And I'm like, but I'm reading about surgery and I'm seeing that guys are really having problems getting an erection after a surgery. And he says, well, what's more important to you? And I said, he goes, what, death or getting an erection? I said, well, getting an erection, actually. I'm just being honest. I'm a 50-year-old guy. And I'm like, I don't want to be around if I can't have, that's a big part of my marriage and my life. And I don't want to give that up. And so I got online and went on these sites where they had all kinds of treatment. And then the guys that had had it done, and you could call them and ask them questions about it. So I went through and looked at proton therapy and radiation and surgery and everything like that. And everybody on there, we're guys. So, I don't know these people, and that's why I'm calling them. But I'd ask them and I'd say, hey, you had this done, and, how's your sex life? Oh, no, everything's great. And I keep talking. I'd say, so I learned from asking questions, and I'm a reporter. So I started saying, so how hard does it get? And they'd get really quiet. And I said, so you're not getting a real good erection at all? No. Would you choose to do that again? No. So why don't you tell me that? Even my friends in the community who had prostate cancer, I'd say, so what, how's that? Oh, yeah, you'll be fine. No, see, I'm not looking for fine. I'm looking for reality. I want real answers to real questions, And so finally I did all this research and found something at OHSU. That's Oregon Health Sciences University in Portland, for those of you out of the area. A very cutting edge place. And I went up there and did what's called calypso radiation, which is outdated now. They have even more stuff now. They put beacons in your prostate, and then they put a computer over you. And then when they're blasting you with radiation, if that computer, or if that prostate, because the problem, what happens, a lot of guys don't know, they don't even know what their prostate is. And a lot of gentlemen out there call it their prostrate. Now, prostrate is what you do before God when you find out that you have prostate cancer.
I know, I'm laughing because my almost 86-year-old dad calls it that. And no matter how many times I correct him, and I'm like, Dad, it's not prostrate, he does his own thing. But yeah.
I was speaking at a conference on this, and afterwards a woman came up and she says, do you think I need to have my prostate checked? And I looked at her and I said, I think you're going to be fine.
Well,
unless her name is Caitlin.
Yeah.
In which case, probably.
That's right. Nowadays, you can't assume anything, right?
That's right. So I went through this 40 days where they, blast you and got rid of the cancer. It takes longer when you do radiation. It takes longer for the numbers to go down, because when they take out your prostate, everything just goes right away. But gentlemen, just so you know out there, if we're talking medical terms, so around your prostate are all these nerves, and that's what causes you to get an erection. So in the old days, they used to take that all out to be safe. Now they leave those nerves there. And a lot of guys after a few years can get it up better than they could, and that kind of thing. I didn't have any problem with that. Because of what I did. Radiation can tend to catch up with you in the end. I do use Viagra, but my doctor said that's not because of the radiation. That's just because you're getting older, Rick, and your wife's getting older. And for you guys to mesh, you need to have this conversation. And so that's taking care of it. You just have to learn to be really open about what concerns you. And then, like for me, it just became, really, I became really acutely confident with my sexuality, in terms of, I'm not embarrassed to go to a meeting and tell gentlemen, you can save your boner and your life at the same time, and it's not going to kill you. Because I think a lot of guys get really scared, and it doesn't mean things are perfect. And as we get older, that stuff starts to catch up with you, but we're doing fine. And I wouldn't go back and change it. I think, and people that have surgery, I think what I've learned about prostate cancer is you never put down someone's what they did. You make a choice and you stick with it. But don't just make the choice that your doctor tells you. that's the thing I find so frustrating about men. It's like, I'm just going to take care. Oh no, just get it out of there. Well, do you know, this is the next 30 or 40 years of your life, and are you going to just let somebody tell you what to do? Or do you want to be confident going in? You may decide. I thought it was really inappropriate, but one nurse, who's a friend of mine, and she said, "I can't believe you did what you did." And I was like, you know what? It's none of your business. She says, because the more practical thing to do was just to do the surgery. Well, your boss is a surgeon. And of course you would think that surgery would be better because everybody should think what they do is best. And that's the weird thing with the alternative treatments out there, is that nobody's going to tell you to do them. Even when I went to look at radiation, they would not say you should do radiation, but they did tell me I should do surgery.
Well, that's because there's a bias.
Right.
And the bias is to mortality benefit.
Right.
Okay. And the bias is to mortality benefit, even if it's points on the scale. Okay. So there's a classic example that we would see all the time in primary care. We'd see people with heart disease, they develop heart failure. The reality is if you are diagnosed with congestive heart failure, it's worse than most cancers as far as how long you're going to live. Okay. Right. The survivability of heart failure is, 5 years. Some people make it longer, and treatment's better. But there's a certain medication that they'd put people on, but it makes virtually everyone tired. So you're already tired. You're already worn out. You have heart failure, which means you have God knows how many other comorbid conditions with this, like, diabetes and obesity and deconditioning right. and all the rest of that. And then the cardiologist gives you this medication, which has shown a, 2% per year decrease in mortality or whatever the number is. Okay. And then they come and see me and I go, well, do you want to live a year and a half longer feeling like this? Or do you want to feel better and maybe die a little bit sooner? And they look at me like I have 6 heads, and then they're so relieved. It's like somebody right. actually gets this. It's like, right. It's not about how long you live. It's about how well you can live long.
Right.
And in medicine, we have this ridiculous bias that just goes to mortality benefit. And I'm not a urologist. I'm not an expert in this, but my guess is, robotic surgery in a 50-year-old male with prostate cancer, so you take out as much as you can, probably has the best mortality benefit.
Right.
So, yeah, I was going to I have, of course, already a lot of questions from your story, but was that an option? So robotic surgery being the new cutting edge thing, I wasn't sure at the time if that was an option for you.
No, it was, but it was getting about the same results as surgery. And so if I was going to end up in surgery, I would have done the robotic. I even looked into proton therapy, mm-hmm. which was, and I was considering going to Korea. I was trying to make a trade. I'll do videos, since I do video production. I didn't tell you guys that. So I do video production. I'll do videos on what you do. If you can give me a rate, better rate. Probably wouldn't have worked, but I could have gone to, but I was seriously considering, and that's when the doctor thought I was nuts. But, and with that, they can't control it as much, and when I went to, my doctor at OHSU, his name's Dr. Hung. And if you're going to have something done with your
life, that's awesome.
I might as well go to Dr. Hung, right? My kids used to go, "You are so dumb, Dad." But he was so good. And I remember walking into his office, and Kathy and I had looked at, my wife, we looked at so many different treatments, and we were just down. So we're driving from Eugene to Portland, which is about an hour and a half, quiet. And we're just like, nothing has worked. Every time we come out of something, you'd come out and look at each other and go, everything sucks. There's nothing good. We went to the clinic in Springfield where they do radiation, heard about the gold seeds. And I'm thinking, no, that doesn't sound like it does the right thing. I don't want that. Stepped into the radiation room. You're in the waiting room and you see all these other radiation patients for different things, and they all look like they're dying. And I'm looking at them going, I was so scared. I'm just sitting there and Dr. Hung comes in and he says, "What do we want to do?" Which is the first doctor who had said that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. So did you actually ever have somebody in radiation or urology or somewhere that say, okay, here's the option to help you through that? I mean, you're doing all the research, but you're trained to do that as a journalist. Right. But did someone ever sit down and go, okay, here's the options, here's the odds game, here's the side effects, here's
See, the radiation guy in Springfield did that, and the other guy. But when I started looking at different treatments, then you're all on your own. And so my wife is the one who found this Calypso radiation. Listened to the video with Dr. Hung on the radio thing. I listened to it, and we went up there, and then he comes in, and I said, I don't want to die, but I don't want to lose my erections either. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I think we can do that. And I went, what? He goes, I think we can do that. Let me show you what we do. Blah, 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 blah. Walk me through the process. We got in the car and we looked at each other. We cried and we found it. And it was like such a great day because we were just at our wits' end, thinking I was just going to have to step into something I wasn't confident about. And this made me feel like I was in charge again. And it was my body, my life. And I have never been one to do what other people tell me to do. I want to do what I feel is best for me. And then I'll take the hit after that. And it was really frustrating to me to, meet other guys who would just jump in, you should just be doing this, Rick. And I'm going, oh my God, no. Because I'm going in here with all this information and I know who's getting boners and who's not and what's happening here and what's going on here. So I'm walking in fully aware of what I'm doing, and then it's for me, cancer was a mind game, a total mind game. And I believe with all my heart that how you feel, what is it? If you give up, you will die. If you fight, you have the much better chance. And I think I used to say, this is not about cancer. This is about Rick Dancer. This is about getting my head in this game and going, okay, you know what? I'm going to win this thing. And it wasn't like, I'm so strong. It's like, no, I'm going to use everything I got and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to fight it. And I'd walk into these nurses. And I make deals with people, so I go to Dr. Hung and I say, okay, so, can I work out while I'm doing this? Cause I'm very, very active. And he goes, I think and he was so good. I mean, you have to get the right doctor, but he was so good because he said, I think I know you, Rick. Here's what we're going to do. Every day you're going to come in here. You're going to lay down on that table. I'm going to zap you. I'm going to kill bad cells and I'm going to damage good ones. You're going to go down to the OHSU gym. I'm going to get you a membership. You're going to go down there afterwards and you're going to put blood back into those cells that I damaged. And you're going to revive as many of them as you can. And you and I are going to fight each other this whole time. I'm going to kill, you're going to restore. I'm going to kill, you're going to restore. So I'd walk in that thing and bring it on, baby, And so I'd go in and all the nurses, they love me. And I love them because all their technicians, we'd walk in and I go, okay, girls, see what you can do. Cause then I'm going to go kick your ass down at the gym. And I'd lay in there and then they'd come up and they'd all go, so who did you meet today? So there's only one really awkward day. And it was funny because I walked in to into the building and there was my junk on this computer. And I look up and I go, I know that penis.
Like the back of my hand.
Oh
I've had that thing around for a long time. And so I walked into the office. I said, every day I'd go into the little radiation room and they'd take me down to my underwear and then I put a little towel over, they lay you down and you get, you sit there for 20 minutes and get zapped. So I walked in and I said, I saw the computer. You guys all have seen my junk. And they go, Rick, just get on the table. So I stripped to nothing. And I laid on the table and all these nurses, they're all women and they're all going, Rick, you can't do that. I go, no, we're going to be really honest here. You've seen it. I know what it is. Let's just don't play games anymore. And they're laughing going, Rick, put the towel on. So I put the towel on. I laid there. They zapped me. Then I go down to the gym and the really cute nurse that was in there is on the machine next to me. And I'm on the Stairmaster looking over going, this is the most awkward thing I've ever been through. Perhaps that wasn't the best thing I should have done. It was so funny. But when I left there, I gave them all flowers. I cried. The hardest thing for me about cancer, fighting cancer, was when you're done with treatment. Because then I'm back in life. This is now, I am not actively doing anything to fight this and I have to trust that what we did is going to take care of it. But I'm not actively going in every day like a soldier and going. So now it's like, okay, now I'm trusting. It's when I'm working, I'm not trusting anybody. I'm going, I'm part of this. I'm part of this machine. Now all of a sudden there's nothing more I can do until I figured out that's how I felt. And then probably a couple of weeks after that, my wife just looked at me and she said, what you can do is live better, smile more, laugh more. Don't take work so seriously. Eat better. All those things that I could do for the rest of my life to fight cancer. And it wasn't more fighting the cancer still. It's still fighting cancer. Don't let the stress, because the stress, I think, is what brings it on. And so changing the way you live or think about your life is the best thing you can do. And you have to do that then for the rest of your life. And I'm not always successful at it. I mean, this COVID reaction has been so hard for me. I'm sure it's been so just mentally, I just don't feel like I'm the same guy right now. You know what I mean? I feel like that Rick is in there, and it really does remind me of fighting cancer. It's my brain. It's fighting my mind and going, okay, no, it matters, but it doesn't matter. No, it matters, but it doesn't matter. And how far do you fight and when do you not fight? And when do you push and when do you push back and stuff? And it's like, I see why so many people are having difficulty. And if I had cancer right now, I think it would be the hardest thing in the world to fight the mental cancer and then fight the mental of all the stuff that is being artificially put on us by the government, by liars, by medical people, by all this stuff. And it's like, I am so glad I had it when I did, because to fight both of those, I wonder if they ever will have statistics on how many people were unsuccessful because it's just too much to fight, I mean.
Well, on so many levels. I mean, because you got the basic people are being restricted from their appointments. There's
Right.
delays in treatment and we talked last week about screening. People are even forgetting about screening because they're so busy freaking out about staying at home, or things are pushed back because things are shut down. And it's COVID sucking everyone's mental energy for that, anything else in their health. When you have something important like that, where you're like what you're saying, it takes you need to channel all your positive energy into like, okay, we're doing this. This is what I'm going to do to get better. This is what I can do. This is, you can't when you've got all this other going on with COVID.
It's going to be interesting because, the great experiment of the American Republic is the fact that we still, to a certain degree, have states' rights. And, Maine, I noticed this last May when things were still really locked down here. And we went to Florida, and it was different. It was just like, it was literally like the clock had just been turned back. Like no one gave you any grief if you didn't wear a mask into a restaurant. They had a big street fair with a bunch of concerts, and like nobody cared. It was just kind of normal, and it really de-stresses you. I mean, tremendously. And, it's going to be interesting to see, if these different locations recover exactly like what you said. Mentally, spiritually, physically, economically at disproportionate rates, just because they haven't had people with a jackboot on their neck,
Right.
for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
While you're talking, I'm sitting here thinking, one of the things I think I would do. So when we had a home at Mount Hood, which is like an hour from Portland. So I would go up there, and they were really great about treating me. So I live in Eugene. So I'd get on a Monday morning, I'd go to work, I'd leave in the afternoon, get to OHSU in time to have my treatment in the afternoon. Then I'd go up to the Mountain House. Then I'd come back in on Tuesday morning, early morning treatment, and I'd stay there all day. I figured I'm paying $100,000. I'm going to use their office space. So I'd be up there on a computer doing my work. And then I do that till Thursday. And then Friday morning, I'd have the first early morning appointment at 6, do my treatment, drive home, do more work over the weekend. So it was, you're doing that. So I had a way to do that. But so it was hard because I was, leaving. But if I had it now, I think I would I'd move to a place. I'd go get treatment. You could get the same treatment. I loved OHSU, but I would go to a state where the lockdown's gone, because that's part of the fighting cancer is so much mental, and it's so much mental. And I don't think people understand that until you get it. It's like, it's not, necessarily what they're giving you. It's how you take it and what you do with that and how you stand up to that and who you surround yourself with, And Oregon would be the worst place to have to put up with any kind of terminal or scary disease while right now. And so you got the very doctors treating people, you're almost doing them a disadvantage because you're saying, here, no, you need to have a positive attitude, but blah, 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 And I think people really, if you're out there, you're somebody and this is happening, I'd make the investment and get the heck out of here and go to a state or go to rural Oregon. If you get your treatment and then go to someplace, Sutherland or somewhere outside the Willamette Valley where the dark cloud of COVID hovers over our souls, and just give yourself some peace, because I think that's really what cured me. I don't think it was the radiation. I think all of it plays a part in it, but I think it's really that. It was the attitude. And I'm not saying I was good all the time. I had moments when I just would lay down and cry because I didn't want to do it anymore. And not because it hurt. When I meet people that are in chemotherapy, I'm going, I'm embarrassed to say I had cancer because I didn't have any problem. Okay, a couple of times. There's one funny story where I had to pee and I'm on the band field. And because the one side effect that I have right now is that when I have to go, I go. Like if I get in the car here, I know that the Charbonneau exit, there's a rest area there. I'm going to Portland. I stop there to pee because I don't want to get to the meeting and be going, hey, great. Can I use your bathroom, please, before we start talking? That's really professional, So I'll pee before I get, before I get into Portland and do that. But I'm driving in from the Banfield, and this is like during the treatments. And I'm driving in, and all of a sudden I'm like going, oh my gosh, I have to go. Oh, I'm dying. This is so bad. And there's no place to pull over on the Banfield. There's not like little happy rest areas or something. So I'm sitting there, and fortunately I bought an iced tea drink.
Yeah.
And so here I am. I have to pee so bad, and I got this drink. So I'm drinking the drink, which just makes me have to pee more, because I'm just going down this. And then I look, and I'm not trying to be gross, but they have a little larger hole. Because if you're I'm not going to try to pee into a Pepsi bottle, I just undid my pants and stuck that up against there. And I'm driving down the Banfield, peeing into this iced tea bottle, going, please don't fill it. Please don't fill it.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, then I got done. And then when I got even close to the hospital, I had to do it again. So I'm sitting out in front of these apartments. This time I stopped. The other time I was driving. I stopped. I pour out the bottle on the street, which is
at least you didn't drink it this time, right?
No. And I poured it out, and then I'm sitting there going, I hope no one is looking out their window. Because I'm down there on the street peeing in my car in this little bottle. And then I get to the nurses. I walk in and I said, oh my God, I had to pee twice into this bottle. And they go, Rick, oh my God, here. And they gave me a urinal, like one of those little hand urinals. And I said, she goes, no, you're hitting that point. But it only did that for 2 days. And then I had a couple days where I got really tired. And a lot of people get really, really tired, but I'm super active. So it didn't really bother me. But that's really the only thing. So when I see people where they go through chemo, and it's like, oh my God, you're practically, you're practically dead. And so I'm embarrassed but you know what? What's the most amazing thing about cancer patients? I think it becomes this thing where it's like a brother and sisterhood. They love you unconditionally because you've been through the same thing or something similar to them. And that's why I couldn't go to the Cancer Society's, the Relay for Life. I did it 1 year, and I was just a basket case. I just sobbed because I went, oh my God, it was so hard. And I spoke and all that. But if you guys are looking for amazing people to bring into your world, I'm not talking about me. I'm not somebody you want to bring into your world, but go find people and listen to them who've struggled and fought cancer, because they will be a reality check for you, and you will get a depth from them that you will never find in other people who have not been through trauma. And I think the best thing for me, just personally, I always tell people cancer was the best and worst thing that ever happened to me because of cancer. I think that I lost Rick Dancer. I got to kill him, and he doesn't exist. The same person does not exist in me today. I don't care what people think of me. I don't care if you don't like what I say. I'm going to say it. And that was not the Rick Dancer that spent 25, 30 years on the news. And so it turned out to be a blessing. And I would never have thought that in the beginning. And now I can sit here, and I think that's why it makes me kind of cry, because when I look at myself sitting at that kitchen, we're starting to sell our house and make another change in our lives really big. And we're going to move to Montana, because I want another part of Rick Dancer to die. And I want to see what that resurrected person coming out of living in a new place and experiencing something different. I want to be resurrected into something different than I am right now. And I can't do that by staying in the same place and doing the same thing over and over. And cancer was that blessing that gave it to me. I quit my job in 2008 after the 30 years and watched my boys watch me do that. And now my youngest son is like the biggest free spirit, because I think he watched his mom and dad take a lot of risk and come out on the other side. And they saw that it was not perfect, and that there was a lot of heartache and pain and things that went through that. And the best moment when I had cancer, when I found out the day. So I have one son who's a little, my oldest son is a little bit, I think I'm on the spectrum, but a little bit on the spectrum, a little black and white, here's what it does. Doesn't cry. I don't cry, because when you cry, people make fun of you, that kind of thing. He's really like that. He's just the sweetest guy and really smart and intelligent, but he doesn't react to things. And so Jake was upstairs after we found out, and I walked up into his room and I said, Jake, I have cancer. And he said, Dad, I'm really sorry. And for him, that was like crying and hugging me, and doing that. My second son, my wife called him and said, your dad has cancer. And Jesse drives in this big old shitty truck he has, comes rolling in the driveway, 6'5", hairy mother, just this hairy monster guy, comes walking in the house, tears in his eyes, and he hugs me and he goes, Dad, I'm really scared. And I said, I am too. And then a few months later, one of his really good friends' parents were talking to us, and they said, I don't know that Jess would ever tell you this, but he came over one day and we were talking about you and what you're going through. And he said, yeah, my dad's the toughest guy I've ever met. He quit his job and his whole career to run for public office. And I watched the way people treated him, and he stood up for himself the whole time. And then he got cancer, and he's fighting this thing and doesn't make it a big deal. He's just fighting his thing. He says, my dad's just really strong. And for me, that moment, I could have died and been happy. Because I didn't have that feeling towards my father. And I have two sons that look at me as a strong man. And there's nothing better than having a son look at his father as a strong man.
It's amazing, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that hit me, and I know really hit May, because we're kind of at the same point. We're like, okay, it's probably time to sell the homestead, downsize. What do we really want to do job wise? Where do we want to live? And, two things really come to mind. The one is die to live, which is critical. I mean, that's one of the most fundamental premises of Christianity, which is whoever gives up his life will find his life. And that isn't just sort of a, Tony Robbins truism. It's true. Right. It's really true. And one of my best friends, has a tattoo on his forearm that says die to live. And, that's really a critical piece to the puzzle. The other thing that really hit me is when your son said, my dad is one of the strongest people I've ever met. When you're going through that, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're the strongest person in the world.
No, I was crying a lot. I felt pretty weak,
Yeah.
But don't you think, we can go there, can't we? Can we do the Jesus stuff? We can talk about whatever.
We can go wherever. Absolutely, we go.
No, I
Yeah,
think
we have F words.
Yeah.
We have F words and Jesus on our podcast,
Okay.
not necessarily
No,
at the same time.
Yes.
I honestly think that it's like, I mean, and this is kind of weird, but it's a gift from God. Rick, people used to get so mad at me because I'd go to church things and I'd speak and I'd say, God didn't allow cancer. He caused it. Because my God is not a God that goes, oh yeah, go ahead, Satan, you can give Rick cancer. Instead, it's like, oh wait, let me check the book. Rick's life, let's see. Quits, runs for Secretary of State, loses. Now he said, oh yeah, it's cancer time. I had this plan from the beginning of time. This is part of his life. This is what Rick's going to do. And you just watch, because he's going to get right through it. But this is part of my plan. So by me authorizing it, I'm causing it. And Christians have a really hard time because God's supposed to only make good things happen. It was a good thing. That was a good thing. And we're so busy going, oh God, please give me this car and give me this. And I don't pray like that anymore. I pray, God. And people come up to me and go, Rick, I'm praying that you're getting healed. I said, oh, did God tell you he wants to heal me? Well, no. Then why are you praying that? Well, don't you want to be healed? I said, well, of course I want to be healed. But what if God wants me to die and then you pray that I be healed? He goes, I'm going to listen to Bill, and he heals me. And then I get dementia. I'll kill you. I don't want dementia. I think there are things worse than dying in a car accident or dying of cancer or dying of something that people go, oh, they died before their time. What? God wasn't watching? Or did they die in their time? And it wasn't enough time for you or me, but it is their time. And I think that's where you got to get the switch. And that's what that switch that turned on for me. It was like, oh my gosh, I am in your hands all the time. And anything that happens to me is something you're allowing and causing and moving. And I'm okay with that. People, I get all the pastors. I spoke at a Christian college. Afterwards, there was a huge meeting about Rick Dancer giving bad theology. And it's like, I'm not giving theology. What I'm getting is reality. This is like, my God's an awesome God. He's in charge of my life, and nobody is going to kill me or get rid of me until the day I'm supposed to be gone. God's not going to look back and go, oh gosh, I forgot about Rick. Oh darn, he died of cancer and I wasn't there. I was over talking to Michael, the archangel, for a while. No, it's all in the plan. And so nobody gets to take me. That doesn't mean I live my life frivolously and, walking across the street going, dare you to hit me with a car. It's not like that. But I'm saying, when you have that attitude like, oh, what if I get COVID? I'm going to die. If you have that attitude, then you cannot live your fullest life. You have to, fear is the enemy here. This is the biggest enemy we have. Cancer's the biggest enemy that's going to kill you is the fear of cancer. Once you get over that fear, you're okay. It's the same right now with our culture. Fear is ruining people. It's destroying them. And it says in the Bible that fear brings upon more evil. So we are just bringing on more evil by being fearful. Instead, I'm not saying be haphazard. Have your medication, have the things you need to do, take care of yourself, lose weight, eat the right food, stop pigging out at Jack in the Box, and take charge of the things you can take charge of, and then just let God do what he wants to do, because you're going to be happy and fulfilled and all those great things if you just set up the standards. You do the basics that you can do, and then let him bring the party. And that's what I feel like God does to me is, Rick, if you'll just do this, just walk, push, go, just keep walking. I feel like I'm like a pig. So if you've ever raised pigs, when they eyes are on the side of their head, and so they see outwards. So you have a board with a handle and you put it over both of their eyes. And pigs are 280 pounds. They have feet that are only like 18 inches. So when they stop moving, you cannot get them to move. I've raised goats too. Goats are tall. So if you get a goat stopped, you can push, but there's some leverage there. With a pig, they're so short to the ground, you cannot get them to move. So you put that blinder on them, and then you just guide them. And you guide them all around, and they may go the wrong way. They may clear to the other side of the field. You keep them moving and aim to get them in the trailer. That's my life. God puts blinders on me. He says, Rick, you may be going in the wrong direction. Don't worry about it. Just keep moving. God, the worst thing, Rick, is these humans that I created, they stop and they get stalled. And then and that's what COVID's been, just stopping everything. No, move forward. You don't know where you're going. It's okay. I'm going to get you in the trailer. And that to me is what following Christ is all about. It's not about seeing what's coming. It's not about, the prophetic future. I see it in my head. It's like, don't stop moving. Just go. I'm sorry.
Right. And it's amazing though, because you think of, ancient and then modern heroes of the faith, so like this whole business of, well, you follow Christ and, at what cost? And, the idea is, oh, no, though, your life will be good and you'll have all the Joel Osteen stuff. And I'm like, well, that's like nowhere in the New Testament. I mean, it worked out great for, John the Baptist. I mean, he got to eat locusts, be super skinny, live in a loincloth, and got his head chopped off.
Right.
Right. I mean, but that was what his mission was, and he was totally willing to accept that. Or you look at Dietrich Bonhoeffer, born into privilege in Germany, and then, is just ignited by his faith and how counter to his faith the emerging Nazi government was, and ends up being, murdered by the Nazis, 3 weeks before the war ended. And he was 39 years old and he was engaged to the love of his life. And he turned to the prisoners. Now I'm going to start crying. He turned to the prisoners he was with. And he had this angelic smile on his face as they're leading him to the gallows. And he says, today is the last day of unreal life. My real life starts this evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, even on a basic level, think of people who, we're talking cancer here, obviously, but people that suffering chronic illness that is not cancer, but is an uncurable type chronic illness that they know they're going to have for the rest of their life. But we see people and patients, and even in our own personal life, what we struggle with, or myself, there's two sides. You're right. You can do the poor me and this sucks and let it define you. And there's other people who choose to go, you know what? I have this. I have to live the best life I can. How can I be still the best person and make my life around this thing, or choose to even not ignore it, but this doesn't define me. And because life is full of shit either way.
Yeah.
Medical illnesses, loss, all kinds of things everywhere. And it's how we choose. It's our attitude, exactly what you're saying. And so, I mean, and that's as far as the Christian life, it's like life is full of disappointments and sin and crap to humans. And it's how we deal with it and go, yeah, we might not be cured, and that might not be the plan, because ultimately something, if you believe, something better or good will come out of it. It can be used. Absolutely.
I think I never have been like everything happens for a reason kind of person.
Man, I hate that.
No.
I hate that. I hate that saying. And I think that I feel like life is more like this partnership with God. And it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Rick, and I wish I'm reminding myself, this is really fun for me, because I'm reminding myself, I think it's good to go back and look at your tragedy in your life, because it makes me feel more alive, and it's like, but going in there and going, okay, so, what are we going to purposely do today? I mean, I remember my mom was, she was like 350 pounds. She had bad knees. She was just, had a lot of struggles in her life, and she had weight issues because of those struggles. And people would say, oh, she's fat. Well, what you don't see is my mom's mind is sad, because her dad died when she was 11 and all this stuff. But she always tried to put on a face. She had neuropathy in her legs, and I mean, just in pain all the time. And when my dad had leukemia, it was like he was over the top, everything's bad, and he died a terrible death. It was like miserable for him. My mom, I found out I had cancer. I told her, she knew, but I'm up there one time and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to start treatment in a couple of weeks. I should go see my mom And then I'm driving over there and I'm going, oh my God, I have not seen my mom since I found out I had cancer. And I start crying like a little boy. I need my mom. I want my mom. I need my mom to say I'm okay. And I go to her house. She lived in a home, like a retirement, really fancy retirement home. Went in her room and I was crying. She goes, "Oh, honey, sit down. What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I need you. You're my mom. When I had boo boos, you were there. This is a big boo boo, and I need you." And so we talked for 2 hours. I had a great time. We laughed, talked about grandma and all the things in our lives and stuff like that. And I get up to leave, and I looked over at her. I said, "Mom, I'll come see you when I get my treatment and stuff." And she goes, "Well, honey, you're going to be fine." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "No, you're going to be fine." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, okay, I'll see you later." And my mom always looked at me and had this little smile, and she kind of just waved her little hand. And I walked out the door, and then I walked back in, and I looked at her. I said, "Mom?" And she goes, "Rick, goodbye." I went, huh. A week later, she died. I never saw my mom again, but I spent 2 hours having my boo-boos fixed, getting a little message to her that she was going to go, "You're going to fight this by yourself, but you're going to be fine." And she fell asleep in her chair, total peace, watching the Trailblazers game, which she loved more than anything. And she went out the way she lived her life, not in misery, but in peace. And she left me the gift that I needed to get through that cancer treatment and the other things in my life. At her memorial service, I did get up and say, "I am so damn mad at you because you left when I'm getting treated for cancer and you shouldn't be here. You should be here helping me." And those are the little things I think that God gives you along the way to go, I know what you need to get through this, Rick, and you're a mama's boy and you need mom to do this. And if we just trusted more, and looked at life more like an adventure than a drudgery. And I'm saying this to myself as I'm saying it to you and your audience, is I want to be the guy who sees everything as an adventure. And I don't want to be afraid of anything or anyone or what they might say or what they might not like about me. I don't want any of that.
Yeah. And that's, what's the verse, right? What casts out fear? Perfect love casts out all fear, period. And, there's so many angles of fear of dying from COVID, fear of your neighbor, fear of the government, there's just, both sides politically have it, both sides medically have it. It just goes by a different name. And, it's just, if I get so unbelievably angry sometimes at what people do. And I go, if I'm that angry, it's probably not loving, not like you can't be lovingly angry, but I know for certain folks it's not. So where's the fear in that? What am I scared of?
Right. And usually it's kind of stupid things like, in the beginning for me, like with prostate cancer, I was afraid that everybody was going to look at me like, well, there's Limp Dick Rick, he's not going to get a boner again, And it's like, and I know that's stupid, but that's how it felt, and then you're afraid you're going to say the wrong thing or you're going to do the wrong thing. And what you learn when you really get to the other side of those journeys is that the Red Sea closes and all your enemies get crushed underneath there and it washes away your past and you're on the other side of the island. And now you look around and go, wow, where am I? And you get to start over. Maybe we need to look at our lives like as starting over places. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's what COVID is for. Maybe it's to teach some of us that it's okay to move on. It's okay to do something different. That thing you've always been afraid of? What's it going to hurt? And what if you don't completely succeed at it? Is it really that big a deal? Because do you think I'm not going to pick you up when you fall down? I'm like your mom, Rick. I know your boo-boos, and I'm going to give you that thing right when you need it. before your mom dies. I'm going to give you just what you need to get you through this thing. If we looked at our lives more like that and looked at COVID and said, this is my opportunity to kill. I think being a Christian or a follower of Christ is about, this is really a little racy, but it's Jesus-assisted suicide. I used to say this in speeches and it would make people mad. Every morning, Jesus comes up to me and he says, Rick, here's a knife. Here's something you can cut out of your life. And it's your choice. So you can cut it out. I'll show you what it is. Or you can just pass and I'll be back tomorrow with the same knife and we'll see what part of your life you want to kill because Rick, if I can take out your entire heart, it'll be replaced with mine. So every piece you give me, I will restore with me. And isn't that kind of the goal?
I love it. Yeah.
I think I love it though. I love the Jesus assisted suicide. It's similar to the striper
dying to self.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people understand it.
Right.
It's like the song on the last Striper album from a year or so ago, which was Middle Finger Messiah, which is basically, Jesus kind of flips off, the status quo, which I mean is right. I think very, very, very clear. But it's interesting because maybe this is a good place to kind of, tie this together. Us on the more conservative side have been, scared to a certain degree about the Great Reset, the Great Reset. We're going to have this Great Reset and it's going to, they're going to take over and it's one world government and, all the Alex Jones, the globalists are coming, the globalists, Return of the freaking Frogs game, all of that kind of stuff. And you sit there and you go, well, what if the Great Reset is exactly what you say? Yep. What if the Great Reset is in our hearts and our minds as individuals? Because if the Great Reset is in our hearts and our minds, I'm going to try new things. I'm going to step out in faith. I'm going to, that thing I thought I was always made for, I'm going to risk actually doing that even if I fail. If we do that, if all of us do that individually, there's no socialist in the world that has a chance in hell of doing anything. No.
Right. I mean, even those people in a situation where life seemed to be going good and they were happy with the status quo. I mean, I hope, it's an opportunity to go, okay, God's got his hand on my back and he's guiding me or pulling me along. And whether it's a health condition or a job loss type situation, I mean, I know it's an eye-opening situation these last couple of years and probably the next couple for people to really just look at their lives and go, what does this all mean? And is there something better I can be doing? And what's God really got in store for me?
Yeah, I think, and none of us are trying to belittle people who've lost their jobs.
No, because like I said, a lot of people are happy with they're like, I don't want anything to change. I don't need any change. Everything was great. Like, yeah.
But I love what you guys are saying there is okay, it is the Great Reset, but guess what? The way God always does things, it's not the reset that man's planning. So the powers that be are planning this Great Reset. And all they're doing is setting the stage for his Great Reset, his reset. So we don't want to get in the way of that, but we also don't have to follow it. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, maybe right. I'm saying this to myself too, is don't get so upset because realize there's a plan here. And you don't want to get in the way, Rick, just like you didn't want people praying against your cancer if you were supposed to have it. So but it doesn't mean we don't pray, God, do your will. But see, I think make the prayer more simple because what the hell do we know? Nothing. So instead, and you know what? Honestly, I don't pray like I pray a couple things for my kids. God, get them. I don't pray, make their lives happy, get them that house, da 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 da. I say, get Jake and Grace, bless them. And I leave it like that. Because then he knows what he's going to do. So you bless them as you can bless them. But if I start going, give them this and this and this, what if God did? Oh, here's a house, here's a new car and all this. And then they totally just got consumed into the consumerism. So for both of my kids, and when I can't sleep at night, I lay there and whoever I think of, even the people I dislike immensely, I just bless them. I just say, God bless them. And it's whoever. Sometimes one comes in my head and I'm like, you don't get to pick that.
I know. It's like, why this again?
No,
Yes,
no, no, no.
I know it.
So I go, then, okay, can you bless them?
Right.
But, maybe that's what we learned from this. Maybe I like this a lot. Thank you for helping me with BS free my MD. Because I think there's something there. It's like, and it makes me really excited to go to Montana. I want to see what I'm ready for an adventure. I want to go see what is Rick Dancer going to be now, according to his father, And if I looked at it like that, then my house isn't selling. Okay, well, he has to sell my house. So what? It's not going to happen. Is it going to just sit there? No. It's like we're just in process. So I have to find one over there. And all the realtors are going, oh, it's hard this time of year. Well, I bought my house on Christmas Eve that I lived in for 30 years. And it was our best present ever. So maybe what if I'm ruining a really good story by forcing the house?
Exactly. We try to take control. We try to control things when it's not up to us. That's how I
What if the challenge to every person in your audience is, who is the new you? What are you going to get rid of? And what don't you need in your life? And you can move on. And maybe that's the junk food. Maybe it's the, being angry at your spouse or the divorce or those things, saying, COVID killed something. Yeah, COVID did kill something in me. I'm going to make everything seems to be responsible. COVID seems to be responsible for every death in the country right now. So I guess I can make COVID responsible for the death of one thing in my life, which would be being angry about the divorce or being angry about this or angry about that or whatever. And then dream. Oh my gosh. I think I always feel like God would be going, God, I love people who go, what's my ministry? And it's like, oh gosh, people, Rick Dancer, what is your ministry? And I'm going, if I went to God and said, God, what's my ministry? I think he'd look at me and go, listen, I gave you a life. Now just go live it, Rick. Good night. Stop thinking, just go. And, and I feel like for me, it's like, see that, he'd go, see that breath you just took? That was me. See your blood is moving around in your body right now. That's me. So I'm giving you this ability to live. So now go live your life. I didn't put you here to be some little pansy, I'm so mad because of COVID and people. And he says, I put you here to live. So now whatever you choose, and guess what? I gave you choice. Unlike your government right now, I give you the ability to choose what's good and wrong for you. And if you pick the wrong thing, I'll eventually show you that. But I'm not going to stop you from doing the wrong thing. So go live, and I'll be up here guiding. I'm not a puppeteer like Kate Brown. I am God. And so you get to work with me. This is a partnership, buddy. And you're my son, and you're awesome. And you have lots of problems, and you have lots of things I'd like to work on with you. But you know what? I know what you can take. And I only give you what you can take, because Rick, if we fixed everything, it just would be so. And I don't want to destroy you. I really love who I made you to be, and this is how I want you, with some fine tuning. But let's just do that on my terms, not on yours or man's or the government's or anybody else's like that. Let's just do this on my terms, just because this is really about you and me. That's the kind of dad I need. That's the kind of father I'm looking for. And maybe that's what's showing up for me right now.
I think that's really going to hit home, really hit a lot of people. I mean, whether they're struggling with cancer or just anything else, or the big current C word of COVID putting their life upside down. I mean, that's really the thing that hits home is, what are you making of your life right now, and how are you going to change your attitude, and just treat every day like it's a total gift.
Right.
Really, right?
And take back your power, because this is you. He doesn't make us powerless creatures, and he makes us creatures who think for ourselves. And it doesn't mean, like, we had two people went into a cookie store here in Eugene, and they got in a fight with the owner because they didn't want to wear their mask, and she pulled a bat, and then there was somebody ended up in the hospital, and these two couple, that instigated everything ended up in jail or arrested. And I'm like, that is not. If you don't want to wear a mask and you go in a place and they say, please wear a mask, either put the mask on or leave. Those are your choices. Don't cause this is nothing. Masks. I think God's going to be going. That's really that's your
Right.
war.
Is that your hang up? Yeah.
Yeah, that's your place of war.
Right.
This is much bigger than that, so you need to get over that. So, and I do the same thing. Sometimes I wear a mask and sometimes I don't. But if someone asks me, I oblige or I leave. And I think that for all of us, we have to make those decisions. But I am so glad I did this with you guys because I feel.
We're super glad that you did it too. I mean,
like
see now you're like, wow.
Yeah,
Thoughts come in your head, and our listeners are like, wow, that was amazing. Just put something out there that I never thought of.
I had a father-son time with my dad. And not my earthly dad, but my heavenly dad. And he needed to talk to me. And he did it through you and your audience and me reliving the hard things in my life and realizing that, gosh, Rick, your son said it. You are really a tough guy. And despite what people said on the playground, you are one tough mother, you-know-whatter. And you just keep doing it, buddy. That's why I made you.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I mean, we could go all night. This has been.
But I have a show to do of my own here in a few minutes.
Yes, you do. This has been.
Yeah. So, hey, why don't you take the opportunity right now quickly to share with everybody where they can find you on social and your live streams and show.
So you guys, I do a live stream 5:00 on Monday through Thursday, and it airs on Facebook, my Get Real with Rick Dancer Facebook page, or it also is on LinkedIn under Rick Dancer. It's on YouTube under Rick Dancer TV, or you can also find it if you go to Go Rick Dancer. There's a story behind that. And when I was running for office, I wanted to go have my theme be big signs down I-5, go, and then a little Rick, and then big dancer. People go, I'm voting for that go dancer.
Yeah.
I'd probably be governor right now. And then you can also find it, I think, but Facebook, if you go to Get Real with Rick Dancer, and then it's always on in the file. And so the best place is YouTube if you want to do that. But we do challenging stuff, and I love what I get to do. I take a lot of heat for it, but that's part of the gig, and I'm okay with that. So I'll have them on. You guys are going to be on BS Free MD next Thursday on my show live, and then it'll be on there that people can find it and see it and stuff. So yeah, thanks again for having me on. And
hey. Our pleasure.
Awesome. I'm bouncing. If you guys, because you're like in the podcast world, you can't see it, but I'm Rick Dancer and I'm kind of dancing.
You're totally dancing.
I'm going out with a little Aerosmith, I'm back in the saddle again.
Maybe we could play that at the end, but we don't have the.
Yeah, we don't have the blanket rights like a radio station. No, it's fascinating. No one has figured out how to do music rights for podcasts.
No,
because they're recordings.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is funny because the radio stations can play that little 10
Maybe
seconds.
we could play it in the background. Just here.
No, you can't play it. You can't hum it.
Yeah. Well, you can do what I do. Is I just do it, and then YouTube says, "Ricky, you've been a bad boy," and I go, "Okay, let's see how long I can get away with it."
Yeah. You like to push the limits.
All right, you guys. See you later. Thank you for sharing your audience. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, that was outstanding.
You guys are now BS Free Therapy.
There you go. Wow, we should license that one.
I like it. I just called myself the psycho gynecologist up until now, but maybe I could change it.
Yeah, you could. You're still going deep.
There you go. Oh.
Hey, I had to end with something sexual.
That's a good blooper.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's staying in. That's perfect.
All right, thanks you guys. See you later.
You bet. See you later, Rick.
All right, bye guys.
Wow, that was a mind-blowing hour.
That was so awesome. It was just like preach, man. That was spectacular. And I had so many other questions I wanted to ask specifics because I know the listeners will be thinking, well, I want to know more about like when did he start screening and like what were the side effects of his treatment? Did he have this? Did he have that? But we could have done more, but where the show went it was perfect. It was awesome. And I know everyone will be loving it. So that was great. Thanks, Rick. That was cool.
Awesome. So
thanks to our sponsor this week again, Locum Story.
For doctors, the story has changed. Visit financialresidency.com/locum story to see if our locum tenens assignment is right for you. It's here you'll find the unbiased answers you are after, so you can decide if locum tenens is your next chapter. It's amazing. Like, why in medicine do we always have to use Latin?
Because it's where all this stuff originated from.
No, I know, but then we use Latin for even like temp job. Locum tenens is like temp job in Latin.
Yeah, well,
and
I don't know. I'm traditional. It's kind of fun.
When my father applied for medical school in 1954,
ooh, you're dating
or it might have
yourself.
been in the 40s, because he did an undergraduate degree and then came back later for medical school. Prerequisite for getting into medical school was Latin.
Yeah, well, good thing I took piano because I learned a lot there.
But you think
didn't help me get into medical school, but anyway, it's a long lost, beautiful language. That's all I have to say. And so check out the links in the show notes to find Rick Dancer, to sign up for the Marriage and Money Conference, to check out our website, and keep your comments coming. We really like it. Show suggestions, and we would love for you to be our sponsor. So we'll see you next week.
See you later.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit, uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
While we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible, we can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com. So we go back to the Latin, right?
Oh,
Foramen magnum.
Foramen, not foramen.
Foramen magnum.
Foramen.
Which is the big hole in the bottom of your skull that your spinal cord comes into your brain, so your brain stem goes through there. And it just means big hole. Foramen magnum. Big hole.
I know some other things that are a big hole.
Foramen.
Just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Yeah, then there's... I'm thinking...
And...
what's stick? What would be big stick?
Stick? In Latin?
Stick in Latin.
I don't know. Pegasus or something.
Because,
I don't know what stick is.
Because, Baton Rouge, Louisiana is red stick.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we'll have to...
Baton Magnum.
If somebody knows, they can message us. Oh my gosh.
Alrighty.
Bye.